You ever notice how Link is always surrounded by women, buff women, tall women, fairies, childhood friends, weird, robotic, sword spirits, fish? He makes a standard anime protagonist look like a joke, let's be real, but with Valentine's Day around the corner, I decided I wanted to see if I could beat Ocarina of Time without talking to any of the women in Link's life. The rules are extremely simple. We have to avoid talking to women at all costs while collecting all the boss remains, which I will define as all boss heart containers and all spiritual stones and medallions. Then beat the game in whatever way I see fit, unless it involves still reference manipulation or arbitrary code execution, because at that point I don't feel like I'm playing the game anymore. Will it be possible? Can we beat the game without talking to a single woman? Let's dive in and find out. We join our hero Link as he's dreaming about manly things like sword fighting and I don't know, fishing? Is that a manly thing? I don't know. And as it would happen, a woman shows up in his life, Navi. Link tries to turn around and keep sleeping, but Navi isn't having any of it. This fairy has immediately ruined the challenge because it's impossible to start a new file and avoid her. Now, I could go by speedrun rules, which do allow you to skip the intro by starting with an intro skipped save file, but another unavoidable interaction with a member of the opposite sex happens immediately as I walk outside, which is similarly unskippable. So I think it's time to address the elephant in the room now. The titular challenge will unfortunately be completely impossible, but this actually made me more interested in the run early on, because changing the question to how many women can we realistically avoid is also actually kind of interesting, especially when you think about just how many women are in Link's life. So we're gonna need to change the question from can we beat this game without talking to women to how many interactions with women are mandatory to beat the game. I won't mince words. We're going to do some utterly ridiculous stuff in this playthrough. So as I set foot outside, Saria immediately comes to greet me. This is also impossible to skip, marking 2 interactions with women in like 2 minutes of gameplay. How long is this game again? Jesus, Valentine's Day Christ, we're gonna need to do way better than this. Grab the sword, and guess what? The shield is off limits because there's a girl in front of the shop ready to talk to Link. So we'll have to do what we usually do in these runs and leave the forest. Normally I like to have Navi help me with this, but since I'm trying to minimize interaction with the opposite sex, I'll just jump headfirst into the stone, which faces me through to the Zora River. I'm admittedly a little bit lost on what to do from here on, because I didn't really think this one through, and I decide to enter Zora's domain using a chicken and do the Zora diving game to get the silver scale. Grab Ruto's bottled letter to give to her dad. This doesn't count as an interaction. This gives us a bottle, which I then use to open Jabu Jabu's belly, but I don't really have anything I can or need to do here right now though. I just figured it would be useful. It wasn't. I don't use this entrance at all for the rest of the run. I'm a bit poorly equipped at this point of the game, so I decide that my next step should be to grab some gear, and with seemingly no other options, I decide that after using the bottle and my sword to grab some sculptulas and get the wallet upgraded, I have to go straight into the Lion's Den, a society comprised exclusively of women. That's right, it's time to sneak into Gerudo Fortress. This time, I actually don't get caught repeatedly, unlike my other videos, which is nice for the sake of the challenge, I'll say. Inside the abandoned-looking fortress, I climb up the tower, side-hop onto the cliffside, back in bounds, and cross the desert using backwalking magic to buy the mystery item off of the mystery salesman in the desert. Bomb Chews! New treasure in hand, it's time to tap into Link's mysterious ability to always wake up in his bed when he falls asleep, aka save and reboot the game to warp back to Kokiri Forest. Now that I have Bomb Chews, I can go to Goron City through the Lost Woods, placing me on the other side of the closed Kakariko village gate and eliminating the need to get Zelda's letter. The Dongo's Cavern! I do a few tricky jumps to get past the slingshot requirement because I don't have a slingshot, and I remember this being a lot harder when I first did this a few videos ago. But I guess practice makes perfect after all. Get the bomb back, get a Deku Shield, which I don't equip, kill King Dodongo and get praised by Darunia, a man I've never met. He then tells me to go meet with the Great Fairy, who is explicitly referred to as she, so I think that violates the bro code. I ignore this request and leave, but I do go back to Goron City to pick up an upgraded bomb bag. Home stretch for young Link now. I go back into Gerudo Fortress because there's a few more things I need to take care of before I go. First, there's a chest in Gerudo Fortress that gives you a different item depending on Link's age, and I'm going to need to open it as young Link. By doing a mega flip, performed by rolling into an explosive at a correct timing with the shield up, then backflipping, I can get to the other normally inaccessible end just fine and open the chest to find an odd mushroom? This mushroom will be extremely useful later, but as a child it is literally unusable. So for now I have to go through the haunted wasteland and get to the desert colossus. I plan to bean while I'm here, which again I end up never using, then go into the spirit temple and leave for our first meeting with the testosterone-filled manliest man of all men, Sheik, who just so happens to be a time traveler. Sheik quickly becomes my best friend in these trying times as a fellow man, and I sense that he would never betray my trust as he teaches me the Requiem of Spirit. Man, he's great. Where was I? Oh, right. I'm more or less set to go to Adult Link. I don't have 2 of the dungeons finished yet, but I'll deal with those later. Because if I do them as Young Link, not just 1, but 2 women will show up on the Hyrule Castle drawbridge, and I would rather avoid that. I mean, what if they talk to me? For now, let's sneak into the Temple of Time, squeeze in through this very small crack in the door, only to have Navi point out that there blade, that's the Master Sword. Thanks, Navi. Now on we go into the future. Link meets Raru. Link meets Uru, an old man who's lived for a while, probably. Glorious facial hair tells me all I need to know. He tells me about how I'm the hero of time, it is my destiny to defeat Ganon, but that's not important, okay? I want to go talk to the roughest, toughest man of them all, Sheik. Sheik's been waiting for me at the pedestal of time, because he's just such a cool dude, okay? He then tells me about the 5 other sages who are waiting for me, most of whom I'll never actually meet. He then explains to me that the sage is a girl he's certain I know, and I'm sorry. A girl? I cannot believe he'd betray me like this. Couldn't they have made Mido the sage of the forest? Regardless, I will have to figure something out to avoid Saria. Annoyed at Sheik's betrayal, I try to leave, but I am met with a door that shuts right in my face. So, save and quit to get to the other side. Mysterious powers indeed. Now that I'm like 7 years late to the party, I realize I never did get a Hylian shield, but I have to go grave robbing anyway. So that's as good a time as I need to pick one up. I mean, it's been 7 years, I think nobody is coming to pick up their inheritance at this point. 1 Hylian shield and 1 hookshot stolen from dead people later, I bomb hover my way onto the edge, jump over the side of the void, and skip needing magic to get into the Shadow Temple this way. Once inside, I quickly make my way into the Hoverboots room and kill Dead Hand, then perform the / boat clip and ledge clip into the boss room, because I actually can't do the boat right since I never learned Zelda's Lullaby, since I never talked to Zelda. I don't know who that is. I also don't have an ocarina, but trust me, an ocarina isn't necessary. I kill Bongo Bongo using the hookshot and then I die. More specifically, I grab the heart container, then jump down into the acid, get myself at a quarter of a heart, climb back up, rebottle some bugs I brought from outside, then I attempt to play a song by putting a sword dangerously close to my face. Hold on a little bit, then jump to my demise, which puts me back at the Shadow Temple entrance. But mysteriously, I now have the Shadow Medallion, deleting Impa from the plot altogether. Next up, the Forest Temple. Since I never went back to talk to Saria, I never got Saria's song, so instead I have to backflip over Mido. After jumping some moblins, I get to the Sacred Forest Meadow, expecting to see Saria, but she's not here. Whew. Instead, the manliest man of them all, Sheik, arrives and says something about how the flow of time is cruel, but I'm just distracted by his appearance. Like, damn bro, I'm not gay, but he's good looking. He then teaches me the Minuet of Forest, allowing me to come back whenever I want. Awesome. I suppose I can forgive him for his earlier betrayal. He seems to want to help. So next up is the Forest Temple. All we really need to do here is pick up the bow, which is easier said than done, since the bow is blocked by 2 things I don't have. One is the Song of Time, for which I'm lacking the ocarina as well, and the other is the Goron bracelet, which is strangely required to push these blocks, even though it doesn't show up on Link at all as an adult. The Song of Time block I can clip into by Z-targeting right as we fall off the ledge, allowing me to get to the door and pick up the key behind it, so that's one problem solved. Then with the 3 keys in hand, I just need to walk to the bow, no block pushing, so I use bombs to hover up the wall. This takes a while and it's probably my least favorite thing to do, but I managed to get through. After all of that, I get the bow, then play the Minuet of Forest on my Ocarina to leave the dungeon, since I'm not fully ready to fight Phantom Ganon just yet. Also, I can't fight the Poe sisters because they're the Poe sisters. It's finally time to make that alt mushroom useful. You may have already noticed, but after reloading my save, the mushroom actually turned into Kojiro. This is because on reloading, the game automatically assumes the alt mushroom still being in inventory means I filled the delivery, even if the timer never even started, which means I can now trade in Kojiro for the alt mushroom again. This starts a timer, and basically I have to get to the temple and beat Phantom Ganon before time runs out. backflip over Mido, which fails spectacularly, but I still decide to go on to Phantom Ganon, who I don't come close to defeating in time, and I'm sent back to the Carpenter's Son. Dang. I do a second attempt, which goes much better, but the stress of the timer and whether or not I'm doing enough damage gets to me. I get careless and get defeated. This might be harder than I thought. I decided I should go pick up the Giant's Knife from Goron Village to up my damage a little bit, and since I'm there, I also pick up the Goron Tunic from Darunia's son, Link. The next attempt with the Giant's Knife in the pocket goes a lot more smoothly, and I manage to line up to once again play some Sword Karina instead of just normally leaving the dungeon. Using the Sword Karina, I make the timer run out when Link should be getting teleported. This brings Link back to the Carpenter's Son, but with the Force Medallion in hand. We take back Kotaro until further notice and go on with our quest. It was only during the next temple that I realized I could have just pre-killed Phantom Ganon and then pick up the mushroom. But this was kind of fun, so I don't regret it. Next up, the Fire Temple. Sheik teaches us the Bolero of Fire before we enter the dungeon, by the way. A song fit for such a manly man. Do you think he's sweating his butt cheeks off in this volcano? He probably doesn't have a Goron tunic, does he? I'm not getting distracted, I swear. Changing the topic, I have no idea where Link keeps getting that ocarina from, and he seems just as confused about it as I am. After grabbing the hammer and the boss key, we leave the dungeon's completion for now. Instead, I play a song on the hammer to leave the dungeon. Next, I quickly use the Giant's Knife to skip past the Door of Time once more. Sheik is waiting for me with the Prelude of Light, and I didn't actually have to do this now, but that's because my initial plan is about to go horribly wrong. And, you know, at least Sheik is here to comfort me. We're coming up on the Water Temple now, which includes the Ice Cavern and Jabu Jabu's belly as well. Initially, I thought the only way to absolutely minimize the amount of interaction Link can have with women was this obscure as heck fish push Door of Time skip. The plan was to use Bottle Adventure to get the boomerang on B, so I can skip most of Jabu Jabu's belly and just head straight to the end. That means I can't use either of the two swords adult Link has access to, but to my knowledge, these are requirements to skip past the Door of Time. It doesn't seem like the stick works for it. Now, from what I can gather, this fish skip is basically completely unfeasible, although not necessarily 100% impossible. But I make videos every 2 weeks, and if you know anything about making videos, especially videos like these, you probably understand that this process can take a while. Too much time to be spending weeks on trying to use a fish to phase through a door, that's for sure. On top of that, finishing Jabu Jabu's belly would put me in a cutscene with Ruto, and unlike the other dungeon clear warps, this one isn't skippable due to the text before the actual cutscene starts. This would end up being 2 separate scenes, so 2 forced interactions with Princess Ruto. So I start looking into other options. First I thought maybe I can void warp, which would allow me to get past the door. But this warp in particular would require me to meet with Zelda. This still gives me 2 finishing interactions, and it's also a bit of a hassle to set up. Eventually, after several days of searching, I find a solution. If talking to a woman is completely unavoidable, I should at least make it count. So I find the best solution possible. Trade Kojiro for the Odd Mushroom, then trade the Odd Mushroom to Granny's Potion Shop for the Odd Potion. With the Odd Potion in my inventory, it's time to go fish at the fishing hole. Just kidding, I perform a little trick that allows me to move with the fishing rod out, which is apparently enough for this guy to ignore the fact that I'm stealing his fishing rod. So now that I'm outside, I jump into Puddle Hylia, leave the puddle, pause, unpause, and now my stick turned into Deku Sticks. Since I currently have 0 sticks, I can't actually use my B button attacks for now, but that's fine. I go to Kakariko Village next, set my bottle with fish to sea right, and try to perform ocarina items with the stick. The stick fails to come out, so Link goes through with releasing a fish, and this turns my B button into an empty bottle. Now I empty the fish bottle in C right and recatch the fish with B. Empty the B button fish bottle again. Then I put the Odd Potion on C right, catch the bugs from under this rock using my B button bottle, and now I have the Kokiri Emerald, Zora Sapphire, I know the Song of Time, and I even have an extra bottle. You may be wondering what the hell just happened, and why do I suddenly have these things? I will try and explain it in as simple a manner as physically possible, but keep in mind that this is a very, very, very deep rabbit hole that I didn't know anything about until a week before I recorded this. So let's bring back Hyrulean science with Eonaegis. The way the game works is that each inventory slot doesn't unlock an item but actually contains the item's ID. This makes it so that any item can theoretically go anywhere. The C buttons also contain whole copies of each item, and their location on the C button is linked through 3 memory segments kept next to the C buttons. So we have 6 segments next to each other that go C left, C down, C right, and then C left location, C down location, and C right location. Now let's say I've got the Deku Sticks, bow, and an empty bottle equipped. This would be item ID 0, 3, and 20 respectively, and the locations would read 0, 3, and the bottle's location was 18. Now, when I catch something in the bottle, such as a fish, the C right button will update to fish bottle, and this action will tell the game, hey, update C right location's item. It will read the item location for C right, and then input the fish bottle at the location. So it will write item ID 25 into location 18, ensuring my inventory remains synchronized with the C button. It knows which button corresponds to which by simply checking the value that goes 3 to the right. Now, let's introduce the B button to this equation. The B button item is kept 1 to the left of the C buttons. So if we catch something with a bottle on B, the code will simply jump 3 to the right and it will read whatever number is there as if it's a location. If my C right bottle is empty, then its item ID will be 20, meaning that the new bottle content will be written to the 20th slot in my inventory, which corresponds to what is normally the 3rd bottle slot, so now there's an extra bottle there. This doesn't explain how I got the Song of Time though, so continuing on, obviously there are more than 24 items in the game, what with all the trade items, bottle contents, and so on. So what happens when the location goes beyond the 24th slot? Well, conveniently, it just so happens the ammo counts and gear screen data are kept beyond these. Gear and quest screen data is grouped together in clusters of 1s and 0s, or bytes. The All Potions item ID is 49, which when used as item location data, points to the following cluster of data containing the Song of Time, the Song of Storms, the Kokiri Emerald, the Goron Ruby, the Zora Sapphire, the Stone of Agony, the Gerudo card, and 1 bit that tracks if Skulltulas are visible from the quest screen or not. By writing the bottled bug, which is item ID 29 and breaks down into these bits to location 49, which currently looks like this, I've basically written the Song of Time, the Emerald, the Ruby, and the Sapphire into my inventory, but also accidentally deleted being able to see my gold Skulltulas as a result. Now, that was a lot. It's basically the entire function of the reverse bottle adventure glitch explained in a nutshell. But I really need to ask you to hold that thought for now, because now that I have the Song of Time, I need to catch a fish in a C right bottle again. I also make sure I have exactly 14 Deku Nuts at this point in time. I bring this fish to the Temple of Time, release it, and catch it to enable Ocarina items, and play the Song of Time on my broken giant's knife to finally open the door of time. Steal another fishing rod to get the stick, then bottle on B again. Now I travel back in time and then back forward, and now I have a boomerang on B. Okay. Very quick explanation on this nonsense. You know how the game remembers what you have equipped when swapping between eras? Since the buttons can hold bottles, the same check 3 right is applied once again here to update the buttons. However, this time the bottle code is run the other way around, updating the C button from inventory, rather than updating the inventory from C. This way, the B button can be updated to any item in inventory. Now, if I had pointed to the boomerang's actual location, I would have found an empty slot, thus equipping nothing to B. Instead, the fish points to 25, which is where Deku Seed ammo is stored. Deku Seed ammo is currently at 14, so the game places that number on B, which, when used as an item ID, is a copy of the boomerang. Neat. I promise this is the end of explaining this set of glitches. After all of this, I can finally move on to Zora Fountain. After hitting a somewhat precise bomb hover, I clip into the ice to make my way into Jabu Jabu's belly, which is somehow still here. Don't worry about it. I get into the boss room using the hover boots, and with a quick equip swap to Deku Sticks to be able to actually deal damage, kill Baronade rather easily. I pick up the heart container, and since I already have the Zora Sapphire on a technicality, I don't really need Ruto to give it to me, so I just leave the area. That's right, all of that preparation was to avoid talking to an 11-year-old girl. So anyway, I go to the ice cavern to meet Sheik one final time. I'm sad. I don't want to see him go. But this may just be the final time we meet up with Sheik. He talks about how young love turns into deep affection, and wait, are Link and Sheik in love? They play one more song together, and then, just as always, he vanishes. I'll miss you. On the way out, I stop and use a trick commonly known as Hold R LOL, which has King Zora give me the eyeball frog because I held R, which I then let expire to get the prescription. Water temple time. Do a hammer recoil boost to get to the boss door, which we can clip through. Kill Marfa, die while getting teleported. I had to go outside to get myself nearly killed for this. Our next dungeon will be the Spirit Temple. We don't have the silver gauntlets, but that's okay, since with the hover boots we can simply grab onto the side of the block and just walk through the ceiling like a normal person. After that, the temple can be played almost as if it was actual normal gameplay, but first we have to pass by the child section and use the arrows to light the torches so that we can grab one key, which we will then take to the other section. After that, the temple can be played as if it was normal gameplay right until you reach this locked door. For some reason, this door needs us to play Zelda's Lullaby. Oh well, probably not important, definitely not the boss key. At the end, clip through the boss door with a bomb hover. I destroy the Iron Knuckle, which frees a mind-controlled Naboru inside. As she wakes up, the twin Rova witches show up and zap her out of existence. Man, that just kind of happened, didn't it? We didn't even talk or anything, they all just acted like I wasn't here. Unfortunately though, even after all of that, here's another forced interaction with women. 2 of them, actually. Although, since they merged, can't they be counted as just the one? Actually, they're dead now, so should it even count to begin with? Also, I'm dead now too, so that skips the Spirit Medallion scene. 2 more dungeons to complete. First up, the Deku Tree. Unfortunately, I forgot that beating the Spirit Temple would make me unable to travel back in time, so I had to hover in as an adult, which is still one of my least favorite things to do. Shoot an arrow through the webbing to open the path to Queen Goma, and then make my only interaction with her queen murder. Finally, I go back to the Fire Temple. I finally kill Volvagia and get the heart container, but don't enter the blue warp just yet. I pick up the Eyewolf Frog and bring it to Volvagia's warp, and its expiration causes me to warp to the credits, effectively satisfying the conditions I set for myself at the start of the video, since every medallion in stone and every boss heart container was collected. And so, I've technically beaten Ocarina of Time, satisfying all my conditions on beating each dungeon, but I was unfortunately unable to avoid talking to the following women. Saria, although you could maybe argue that was more like someone yelling at me from afar. The Potion Shop Granny, who I traded a mushroom to. Twin Rova, who I then proceeded to kill. Queen Goma, whose only interaction was also to get murdered by Link. And finally, Navi, whose interactions were so many and I stopped counting that by the end of the journey, she decides to leave, striking herself off the record. I think this is the absolute minimum you can interact with women within Ocarina of Time, but I still feel unsatisfied. Everyone may be partying, but where's Sheik in all this? Is he waiting somewhere? For me? Throughout my journey, I feel like we've gotten so close. Maybe the true way to become utterly maidenless is for us to reunite, to be together. So I set forth on my journey one more time, to find him in Kakariko Village. Finally, together. But he tells me to get back. Without giving me a chance to wonder why, an evil spirit quickly knocks him out. There's only one thing I can do. I have to fight for Sheik. So, I pull out my sword, get ready to strike, and... Okay, hold on just a second. I don't talk about this much, and I won't be blabbering your ear off about it for too long, but I recently launched a new Discord where you can chat with other people who may have watched these videos as well, and also join in on fun little events I host from time to time and share memes. I also relaunched my Patreon and YouTube memberships, so if you want to support me directly, now you can! Again, if you want to, of course. I'm more than happy that you sat through this video already. It's great. Just, I hope you enjoyed it. With that said, thank you so much to Awesome Swifter11 for being a supporter on the highest tier immediately and earning this voice shoutout. Insane. Anyway, I'm gonna go cry about Link and Sheik dying when they finally got together and then get back to working on more videos, so I'll see you in that Discord or something, okay? Till next time, bye bye.